Welcome to the Lazy Fluency podcast, where we have casual conversations switching between English and Japanese so that you can learn from and with us along the way. I'm Joey.
And I'm Yami.
And the topic of the day is cheating. Before we get into that, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and or drop a review on whatever platform you're listening on. We appreciate the support. And with that out of the way, cheating. So this is probably one of the topics that I first learned about, or how should I say, when I'm learning about other cultures. And when I was learning about Japanese, there's always this notion where you go, do as they do in Rome. As in, like, if...
郷に行っては郷に従え.
Yeah. And this was one of the first things I remember when I was seeing interviews on YouTube about Japan that disgusted me to such a degree that I realized, there are boundaries to do as they do in Rome when it comes to cultures and different perspectives. Just be clear here, I'm not saying that cheating is significantly more prevalent in Japan than America. The reason I was so surprised is the reasons and what can be justified as cheating. And so, we're talking about cheating today. Any thoughts off the top immediately?
なんかチーリングって浮気となんか不倫に分かれるんだけど、不倫っていうのがもう結婚してる人がチートすることで、浮気は全体的なチートのことでという意味で、浮気っていうのはそもそも私は悪いとは思うんだけど、でもただ単に悪いからダメっていう一筋縄ではいかないとは思う。それ浮気をする人はそれなりに理由があったりいろいろあると思うので、とりあえず。
Well, the first thing I want to clarify is just get some data behind cheating and how common cheating is. So, for cheating to be classified as cheating, the most common approach tends to be done by survey that I've seen because cheating is very culturally dependent as to what classifies as cheating, and even within a given culture, people have many different answers. With that said, I found some research here that was done by, General Social Survey, GSS, from 1991 to 2018, which was covered married couples, and then a 2021 survey by health testing centers that covered just general relationships. And in America, cheating is less common in Japan, but not by a significant margin. With little over 46% of respondents in monogamous relationships said they had affairs. Nearly 24% of marriages affected by infidelity reported staying together. And in terms of marriage and how common it is for people to cheat, men say they cheat 23% of the time, and women say they cheat 12% of the time. With and according to I'm not sure who is this from. I think this is Koiura. I think they're probably referencing another survey, but men tend to cheat around 30% of the time, and or I guess out of the survey, people surveyed, and women around 20 to 25% from what I've seen. So higher than the US, but people in both countries cheat quite a lot. With that anyway, do you want to talk the reasons about cheating, or do you want the reasons people cheat, or do you want to talk about something else?
その浮気をするその理由としてはなんか男の人と女の人でやっぱり違くて、で私が調べた中では男の人は一番多いのはなんて言えばいいんだろう、これは欲求不満ということでサティスファイングじゃないからチートすると。
Yeah.
はい。で次に多いのがストレス解消。やっぱりね日本ってさ、男の人がやっぱりメインに働いてて、もう朝6時とか7時から会社行って夜帰るの遅くて、で家帰るとうるさい妻が待ってて、どうだらこうだらでストレスが溜まっていくと。はい。でそれのストレス解消のために people はチートすると。はい。で3つ目に多いのは寂しさっていうのがあって、この寂しさっていうのはだいたい女の人が感じやすいけれども、でも男の人も感じると。
Yeah.
はいはい。でそれが男の、トップ3の理由。
So first one, basically sexual or I guess lack of sexual satisfaction is what sounds like a desire. What's it called? As how I define that. The third one or second one is stress relief, and then the third one is loneliness. For this was men, right? Yeah. And then women.
はい。で、女の人の一番多いのは、そうだね。満たされないものを埋めるって書いてあるけど、これは、夫とかね、パートナーが、家にいないとかね、ずっと外で働いてるわけだから、それを、寂しいのを、埋めるとか、そうね。相手してくれないから、それを、心の、なんていうの、空洞を埋めてもらうために、やると。
Yeah, that was a little more poetic. Filling a void, basically.
ポエティックに行きましょう、今日は。
Yeah.
で、2番目は女性として見られたい。これは、なんて言うんだろう。
That one's very Japanese.
そうだね。日本ってさ、やっぱりあんまり愛情表現をしないわけよ。で、それはやっぱり、付き合っている年数とか、結婚している年数が長ければ長いほど、やっぱり愛情表現する口数は減ってくわけ。今日も、可愛いねとか、愛してるとか、日本人ではあんまり言わないわけよ。
I find it interesting it says they want to be seen as a woman specifically. So not that they want to have more affection. Maybe that's what they mean, but we talked about on the last episode masculinity, but I find it interesting that they didn't say I want to have more, like, what's it called, sex or whatever, or I want to have more intimacy. They said they want to be seen as a woman. But I'm assuming they mean they want more intimacy.
そうだね、そうそう。女の人ってやっぱり気持ちを大事にしてほしいのよ。だからなんだ、彼氏とか夫じゃない人からやっぱり建前でも何でもやっぱ可愛い綺麗ですねとか言うじゃん、そういう人はチートしてる時に。だからそういうのがなんていうの、自分にとって気持ちがいいから家帰っても何も言ってくれない夫に比べてね、嬉しいからっていうのもあると。
はい、Yeah.
で、
Third reason.
はい、3つ目の一番多いのが、なるほど。女の人って男を選ぶみたいな、なんていうの、なんていうの、カルチャーじゃん。男の人は女の人を選べないけど、女の人は男の人を選べるみたいな。
Yeah, that's typically how...
デイティングアップとかもそうじゃん。
Well, yeah, most of them, yes.
そう。だから、女の人ってある程度なんか選びたいみたいなのがあって、で、とりあえず、この人とこの人とこの人と今3股してるから、この人がナンバーワンかなみたいな。
Wait, so... Oh, okay. So this is... We were just talking about this when preparing for the episode, but I think we've already come across potentially a difference, or I think it is a difference, where you're saying in Japan, any form of dating, or I don't know if dating is too vague. Going out with a woman doing some activity can automatically be constituted as dating or the beginning steps of dating. Whereas you're saying in the US, this is, I definitely think, more true than it is in Japan at the very least, where even if you are explicitly dating, if you're not officially in a relationship, then you can date around with multiple people at the same time. So in this thing, when they're saying they want to, I wonder if this is referring to the early parts of a relationship when they're cheating or a later part, because they're saying they want to have choice. You know what I'm saying? It would be very weird to say you want to have choice when you're married. That's so do you think that this is referring to the beginning stages of establishing a relationship, or do you think it's just saying that they want to be with many men?
多分さっきの3番目の理由を選びたいっていうのは結婚してない人だと思う。さすがにさ、結婚
Yeah, that's like you're like I want to get more options when I'm married.
さすがに結婚してない人のなんていうの、人生の選択みたいな感じ。
Yeah.
で、これさ、人によってもさ、浮気どこからが浮気っていう、基準があって、で、一番多いのがなんだ、フィジカルリレーションシップを持つことが男の人も女の人も 30% ぐらいの人がそう答えてると。で、次に、多いのはキスインすること。で、その次に多いのは手をつなぐこと。で、面白いのが、これ私ちょっとないのかなと思ったんだけど、二人きりで、食事に出かけることもなんだ、浮気と考えてる人がいる。
Yeah. So, I mean, I think this goes back to what we just, not only can any interaction with someone of the opposite sex be perceived as a date, but any action within, like I'm saying, any one of these actions that could also be perceived as a date can also be perceived as cheating if you're doing them with somebody else. So just recapping them, having lunch together, holding hands, kissing, that one I think is shared between the US as well. Hugging, I don't think would be considered cheating in the US. And what is it? Have physical intimacy, I'm assuming that it is. 体の関係を持つ. But yeah, I mean, just as a quick comparison, I believe it had the reasons or what they considered. Oh, maybe it didn't have them. I swear it did, but oh, here it is. Oh, here we go. So these tend to be considered. This was by previous survey data that I was referring to at the beginning of the episode for in American couples. These are the types of things that are considered cheating. So one night stand, or so the types of affairs. So this is specifically for marriage, but one night stands, emotional infidelity. So like wanting to be with somebody else. But this is more ambiguous, I guess. Compulsive sexual behavior, as in, I'm not entirely sure how this relates to cheating, but yeah, a lot of these don't seem to be, they seem to be more abstract. So I'm not entirely sure how they classify that. But yeah, I mean, the main point is that cheating, you need it seems like the bar is much lower to cross to be cheating. Yeah. And let me see. So the other thing that we want to talk about, at least with regards to cheating, in terms of how something I find interesting as a result of cheating, is not only do these types of actions get considered cheating, but cheating also, I would say, has spawned a lot of other industries in Japan. Like the first one I can think off the top of my head is host clubs.
あれはチートに入るのかね?
So that's an interesting question. To me, that's the whole intent. Okay, so you don't know what a host club is, and I'm not sure if we've talked about it, but a host club is basically a location where you go if you're a woman. I don't know if there are one for men.
キャバクラ.
Oh, kyabakura, yeah. So there exists for both sexes. Host clubs, I think, are way more popular now than anything else. But so you're a woman, you enter, and there's a bunch of like idly looking pop store boys who. The whole time you're there, you have to pay for the drinks and you pay for everything, but they basically make you feel really good. They kind of act like your boyfriend, or everybody's like simultaneously your boyfriend at the same time. They also, you spend time with them. You drink with them and whatever. But and in some instances, I believe you can, what is it? You can like sleep with them, but not like have sex because that's illegal. But there's like a weird.
まあでもあるところもある。
Yeah, there's like a line, and so you can have a physical intimacy with them, and that is like a extremely booming business in Japan, to the point that in a lot of places that were previously taken over with, I'd say men targeted stuff like idols and even maid cafes and stuff like that now have been taken over with host clubs. And there's also the whole like booming of, personally, I think this is related, which is BL, which is like boys love and stuff like that. But do you think any of these have anything to do with cheating? Or as in they have feelings that they're not getting, let's say, the very first thing, they have a void that they want to fill. And to me, it seems like host clubs or even BL kind of is in this weird territory of not cheating. I mean, host clubs, I think, would probably fall into cheating, even by American standard. If you're literally going somewhere because you're not getting, like I'm saying, you're basically, if I was from the guy's perspective, I'm going to go hang out with these girls, get at least some degree physically intimate and drink with them because I can't do it with you.
それがなんていうの、チーリングで入るかっていうのはその人とそのパートナーの定義によるよね。
Yeah, but I'm just saying I think that would be a non-controversially pretty clear-cut cheating, I feel like, in the US.
でもそれ友達としてやりたい、なんていうの、その行ったところが
If you went with a friend, that's a little different. That's like that's kind of just like going for fun, I guess. I'm not even sure. Yeah, it's in a weird situation. But you don't have any thoughts about like host club? I find it interesting that there's such a big scene specifically for women catered what would you call them, like intimacy services? Not only host clubs, like I said, like BL is massive in Japan. and this is something that maybe deserves its own video, but boys love is a category that is not like explicitly super sexual, but it also is explicitly sexual to some degree between like two men and some sort of like romance. And a lot of times it's like what would I say? Sort of how porn is like over exaggerated and fantasized in some way. It's a little soft. I'd say like it's kind of in the genre of softcore porn. Is kind of how I would define it. Well, yeah.
でもあれ男同士じゃないのあれ。ゲイじゃないのあれ。
I mean, what do you, yeah, it is. Boys love? It is. Yeah. But I'm saying it's targeted for women. And I'm separating that a little from just general romance because there is an additional spin on having basically showing off and exemplifying the sexual aspects of like the body or presentation or in the way that everything is shot in terms of paneling, not just because they're two men in a relationship. Just to be very clear about that. And in the U.S., I know a lot of people I knew in my classes who were taking Japanese and other stuff like that women were drawn to the BL, whatever. But I'm just saying I don't think there's an American equivalent that is nearly as prominent, nor host clubs or anything like that. So I'm wondering, do you have any idea why? Do you think that any of the like prominence of this has to do anything with like women feeling like they? You remember if we're talking about previous episode, like women feeling like they can't actually find what they want from Japanese men.
それが何?
I'm saying, do you think that relates to the increasing like BL and host clubs and things like that?
あれまあその気持ち的にさ満たされてないとやっぱりそれの埋めてくれるものがあればそっちに人は行くからさ絶対そうでしょ関係はしてるじゃん
Yeah. Well, I just think it's very interesting. We were talking about I wanted to bring it up actually I think last episode about how these huge industries are coming but at the same time you have like this perception that women really don't like it's kind of like this is directly what's happening but it seems to me they're like well if we can't get good men in Japan we're just either go to a host club or get pulled into BL or whatever. Whereas obviously men everywhere are kind of into porn. So I find I'm not saying that that's a whole separate conversation. I'm just focusing specifically where I think it's interesting. That this is something I think differentiates East Asia specifically, but Japan. I think Japan, maybe they're not, but they seem like they're pioneers of BL.
まあそういうなんていうのアニメとか漫画とかそういうのは日本から始まってるからね。
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of other stuff that I want to talk about is our personal experiences with not cheating. I mean, I guess cheating. I mean, I haven't cheated. But me knowing other people who cheated and how they act and what they perceive to be cheating. So something I find interesting is although it's said that holding hands or stuff like that can be the lines for cheating, I've also seen, and obviously you can always find some examples that of somebody saying some take or whatever in any country. But this is a take that I've really never heard in America. And I find it really interesting because I've heard it multiple times. And from even people that I know that having sex with somebody else, if you're a guy and you have sex with another woman, if your feelings are involved, which is a vague notion, it's not cheating.
それって相手はさ分からなくない？もしさ今修羅場にいるさ夫婦がいたとするよ。でその男の言い訳いや気持ちなんかなかったってただの遊びだみたいな言うじゃん。
But if we go to the first reason for men, it was basically a lack of sexual satisfaction. And so that, and then if you also look at the women, I feel like there you can see where that opinion comes from to me, where they're like, no, it's just sexual.
それは確かにあれだね。まあ男の人のね第一が別にフィーリングが入ってないの埋めるためにねやってるわけだからまあそうか確かに。
But I'm just talking about in terms of that not being a line for cheating for some people blows my mind, especially people I've talked to directly. And also another thing on top of that is even if something is recognized as cheating, I feel like there's not really as much guilt associated with it. Like from my personal experiences, I've known teachers or I don't want to call anybody out here. I've known teachers, maybe not that I've known teachers that came from Japan and then were married in Japan and cheated on students or cheated on their husband with students, as in sleeping with students, as well as not married, but just actively holding up multiple relationships and feeling nothing about it at all. And maybe it's a big coincidence. Oh, I've also seen the same from men too, where we had a whole discussion with, this was another Japanese teacher that was trying to understand why cheating was bad. And so I'm not sure if that's something we want to go into, or the what, like, fundamentally something I find interesting is, why is cheating bad? And in the US, I feel like there's a very strong tie to viewing cheating as bad because of this notion of infidelity that comes from like Christianity and Catholicism. But
それに神に背くからダメみたいな。
yeah, literally, it's like infidelity. I think is like one of the it might be one of the 10 Commandments. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Like I said, not a religious person.
個人的な意見は、まあその相手をトラストしてんのに、信頼してるのに、それを裏切るからじゃない？
Yeah. Oh no, but I'm trying to say like why. Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to. Okay, but you wouldn't consider.
嘘つくのと一緒じゃん。嘘ってだって悪いでしょ。嘘いい。まあワイトライはまあいい、まあしょうがないライだけどさ、やっぱり基本的に嘘ってついちゃいけないじゃん。
Yeah, but I'm saying maybe another way to rephrase it is, why is cheating so much worse than a normal lie?
Worse ってどういうことで worse?
So for example, yeah, I could make a lie, or I could lie, and then I'll say that I'm saying I picked up a bento for you or something, and then I actually didn't.
まあ、嘘のさ程度にもよるじゃん。
Yeah.
なんていうの、誰かを殺したっていう嘘ついて、まあ本当には殺してないけど、その嘘は悪いじゃん。
Yeah. I'm not saying, but I'm saying cheating, or at least in the West, like infidelity or cheating on somebody you're in a relationship with, is like on a whole other bar of like deplorability. And then that's what I was saying when I heard the thing I was referring to at the very beginning of the episode, when I said, something that like made me realize like no, I can't respect that this part of the culture, is when I heard responses like, no, it's not, it's fine, because, well, for one, people who cheated and felt completely like, what's the word, justified for doing so, and blamed their husbands or blamed their wives. And then on the other hand, people who said that it's fine because that I'm cheating on somebody because my emotions aren't in it, which is, and I was like, that is just a take that's so bad that I can't. But something I found interesting, which you're saying like, okay, it's a lie. I'm assuming that the lie is worse because the trust expected is higher. You know what I'm saying?
そう。
But there's also another, I guess. Well, I mean, I agree with you on that, but I think there's also like another reason maybe why people think cheating is bad, or this is something I was thinking about, is the notion like, so not to go too far back in our masculinity episode, but one tenet of this old misogynistic interpretation of masculinity is that men are allowed to. You saw this video actually. It was the Andrew Tate take. It's like men can cheat. Men can sleep around with other women, and that's fine. But when women do it, it's bad. I'm not sure if you remember hearing. Okay, and that take to me is very interesting because of how I think something like that came to be. Obviously, I don't think that's everybody or the modern interpretation of what is socially acceptable. But I do find it interesting that, so marriage, or as an institution, as far as I understand, came from like property ownership. So the only reason that somebody got married to somebody else, from my understanding, is because men had to know who owned who, basically. And so a man owned their wife as property, as well as their children and land, or whatever property. And marriage was just a formalized way of accomplishing that goal. So in a way, cheating, at least, I mean, I'm not sure, like, obviously, if you go further and further back to the beginnings of hunter-gathering societies, how that worked entirely, but at least there's a big portion of cheating being literally stealing someone's property. And I think that could be why you get takes or perspectives like men can cheat but women can't, because a woman in this old view was a man's property, but a man was not a woman's property, if that makes, in terms of the historical explanation.
そのさ、なんかmenは can cheat だけど women は can't cheat っていうのは、それは 偏ったなんていうの考え方の人だけでしょ。
Yeah, but I'm saying I'm talking modernly speaking. Yeah, but I'm saying that was very common. Like even Japan had like a very what's it called with like lords having multiple mistresses. And then
あれだ側室とかさ。
Yeah, or even geisha on a weird. They're like the old school host club.
まあ違うホースクラブじゃなくてあれだよキャバクラだよ。
No. I'm saying yeah, kyabakura. Geisha are the old school kyabakura. And I'm saying so, or if you go in the I mean, depends. You can find it in every religion. Mormon have a whole thing about having large, what are they called? The same thing. One man, multiple women, like harems.
なんかあれ今でもさなんかアフリカとかはさ一夫多妻制じゃん。インドもかな。
I don't know.
一夫多妻でさ一人の夫と何人かいる奥さん。
Yeah. I'm assuming that's common. But yeah, but I'm just saying that might be where that comes from. Is like this notion of property. But obviously, I don't think it's really works at all in the modern day. But yeah, I'm not sure if you had any other. Did you have any? What's it called? Have you ever heard any of the takes I was telling you about before, where there's that you don't qualify cheating if it's like just your body because men aren't emotional or anything like that?
特にはないけど、まあでもなんていうの、人はそのまあボディのリレーションシップがあるとチートって考えるよっていうのはまあ多いでは知ってた。
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, this is like obviously I think most people think cheating is bad, but I'd be interesting to hear why do you think cheating is bad, or what is bad about cheating, or why do you think people have come to view cheating as bad? Because there are as the new version I think of a harem is something there's a bunch of terms that I've learned from one of my friends, basically where as opposed to having like a man and a wife or a just let's say male female one like relationship, and then maybe having like one child under that, the what's it called, single parent, no whatever, there's a word for it, the atomic family unit, whatever.
核家族?
Yeah, maybe. And then now it's more common, or not more common, yeah, it is more common, but I don't know if it's still super prevalent to have relationships with like 3 or more people. So like where one person's dating somebody else, the other person, they're all dating each other, or 2 of them are in a relationship or something, or maybe let's go 4, where 3 of them are in a relationship with the other and one of them's only in a relationship with one of them, and there's this weird like non-hierarchical but also sort of hierarchical relationships that I've known people in a what are they called? I don't remember the name, but like a 6-person relationship, and they have basically within the relationship some people have closer connections with other people, so they're basically like their roosting partner, which means they're the ones they live with, but they're still in a relationship. Polyamorous relationship, there we go. But there's other new words, that pods, I think there's a term called pods, where if you live all in the same house, it's called a pod. But anyways, in these relationships, it's not considered cheating because everybody's on the same page. So my question to you guys is, what do you think constitutes as cheating nowadays, and why do you think it is bad if you do? 戻りました。
We're back.
今週韓国に行く。
I thought you were in Japan.
そう今は日本にいるけど、まあ明日そう。
Wow, that's tomorrow. Wow.
そう明日韓国に行く。
Yeah.
でなぜこのことについて話しているかというと、
There's a long story behind this.
まあこのことについて話すと思うんだけど、今回はそのなんていうか、なぜ韓国に行ってるかというと、まあそれよりもなんていうか、私が今疑問に持っていること、例えばまず韓国に行くのは1日だけ。
Yep.
それでまあ個人的に他の国に行くときにその国の言語をちょっとだけ学ぶなくちゃいけないと思ってるんだけど、その1日だけだとまあやらなくていいと思うんだけど、同時に韓国について今までその1日前行く日、まあ明日の朝とか、まあ全然なんか何も調べてない。
You don't even remember which airport you're gonna go, and then what time
そう、ホテルとかの予約もやってないし、今なんかどの地域に行くのも全然わからないし、言語もわからないし、なんか韓国の文化に関しては多分その国の歴史、その現代的な歴史についてちょっと分かってるんだけど、そのぐらいだと思うし、デートの文化と、アジアの、中国と日本と韓国にそのつながってる、共通点の、文化について分かってるんだけど、それ以外何も分からない。
Well, we haven't covered why you go to Korea.
そう、話したことある。その、何でしたっけ ?Tips, why things you should do before coming to Japan?
Okay, but like,
少なくとも
for people who listen this,
そう
like for the first time.
まだ聞いてない人は、ビザの問題があった。つまり、その、日本に、行った時に、その行く前だと、その3ヶ月間だけ日本に泊まれるでしょ
without visa.
そう、ビザなしで。それで私がその92日間の、ぐらいの、何でしたっけ、その行き来その
行き帰りの
切符を買ったんだけど、その日本の、政府というか、その空港にとって私の90日間ぐらいの間は実は91日になった、っていうことは、そのなんかずっと3ヶ月間日本に行ったとしたら、それは違法的になるので、いろんな問題があるから、なんていうか、これ言えないけど、多分、韓国に行かなくちゃいけなかった。でも、その、なんていうか、韓国に行く理由はビザに関係あるかどうかは言えないでしょなんていうか、法律的に。その
But the American embassy?
そう。
Yeah, so I think it's not illegal.
わかんないけど、とりあえず、その、ビザをリセットするために、もしかして韓国に行くことになった。
Yeah. So basically, in the middle of your stay in Japan, and then if you go to like other places, then that will reset your stay in Japan. So, right? Yeah. So.
でもそのために行ってるわけじゃないんですよ。今聞いてる空港会社に勤めてる人。でもとりあえず、そのなんかどのぐらい他の国に行くとしたら、どのぐらいなんか、例えば1日だと言語を学ぶ必要あると思う。なんかどのぐらい韓国について調べた方がいいと思うの？
Yes, I think you have to search what place you're gonna arrive at, and then if you're gonna stay at the airport for one day, then you don't have to worry about it because there's English everywhere in the airport.
いやでも礼儀としては、
I don't know. こんにちは, like ありますよ. I don't know. And then
その挨拶ぐらい。
like すみません, excuse me. I don't know how to say in Korean, but yeah. And what else? ありがとう. あれ감사합니다.
わかんない。それで1日だとそれぐらい。私料理についてほぼ何もわからない。キムチ以外。
キムチ。
で、もちろん K-POP ということを、そのことについて一応知ってるんだけど、ファンではないから、で、もちろんそのなんか、韓国ではその知識は全然役に立たないと思うんだけど、その1週間だったらどのぐらい学ぶ必要があると思う？その言語は、なんていうか、初級レベル？
I don't know, just
1ヶ月間 ?1 ヶ月間だったら言語を学ぶ必要があると思うんだけど、私。それで、なんか旅行してた時、あいみは他の国にいたことあるでしょ？
But it was when I was in when I was a kid, so I didn't have to worry about
責任とか。
Yeah.
一応なぜこのなんていうかどのぐらい学ぶとかについて話してるかというと、韓国人の友達がいる。アメリカ人だけど両親は韓国人なので、その私はこれから韓国に行くってことを言ったら、それでなんか韓国語を勉強し始めたってこと？それいいえ、なんか1日だけだから実はほぼ何もわからない。ほぼというか本当に何もわからない。で、韓国の料理について あみは知ってることある？
いや、キムチ、まあ、
アメリカではあまりなんか食べられないから。
like in Japan, Korean town is pretty popular and famous. So like there's a station which is called 新大久保. 新大久保っていう. It's near Shibuya and Harajuku, if I remember right. And like so that there's many K-pop shops.
K-pop shop
and Korean restaurants, so like a Korean culture area. Then yeah, like on weekends people go there, so it's kind of crowded. So like I guess yeah, you should have gone to 新大久保 kind of to
新大久保
yeah to yeah experience
訓練するため
yeah
まあ一応ビビンバ食べたことある一回。
Yeah, but it was like at the Japanese restaurant.
So
yeah, basically like spicy food is famous.
何でしたっけ？ギャンシャオ
What?
いつもなんか同じ唐辛子使ってる。
I don't know.
ギャンシャオまあとりあえずわからないんだけど、そのなんか私が思ったのはその唯一の私が知ってる場所はそのハロウィンの時にその事故があったでしょ、そのなんか何百人のそれだけ知ってる。でもそれはなんか外国人のなんていう聖地でしたっけ？そのなんか外国人だけのみんなが観光客じゃなくて、その韓国に住んでる外国人がみんな行く場所。でも私はその場所に行ったら戻らないといけないので、多分まあ空港だけのまあ実は動画を作るつもりに韓国にいる時に一日だけだからまあなんていうか面白い動画になるかどうかわからないんだけど、まあ一応なんかどのぐらい韓国の文化を楽しんだ方がいいかな。その料理ぐらいは空港でできるかもしれないけど、で挨拶ぐらいもできるというのもある。
You have to carry a little money.
それは大変。
Yeah, you have to 換金する convert to won かな韓国語。
won。それは大変。まあ考えたことない。またその空港でまあ寝られるかどうかはまだわからない。まあ日本の成田の場合に関してはその何でしたっけ24時間の空港じゃないから11時まで、それでまあ戻らないといけない自分の家とかどこかに、で私がそのどこかにがないホテルの予約もしてないし、言語も知らないしお金持ってないし、お金持ってるけどそのウォン持ってないからちょっと心配してるんだけど、まあ大丈夫かもしれない。まあ Wi-Fi もない。まあ、空港の中だと Wi-Fi あるけど、もうなんていうか一日だけだとお金払いたくないよね。
I hope we can, survive and then come back.
でこのエピソードは多分エピソードがアップロードされるとき、まあそうコリアにいるので、韓国にいるので、ぜひなんていうおすすめとかあったら空港でそのメールを読んでなんか面白い韓国の料理とかあったら私がまあ一日でできるなら試せる。
And travel advice.
そう一応。
You have to. It's like a survival game.
そうぜひぜひ生き延びるために。And we're back with the final section. And that means if you made it to the final section, send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com with a question, language related and or otherwise. Also, feel free to drop an Apple review because I will get very angry if you don't. Also, if you're Japanese.
勝手に怒ってるよ。メールでもDM、まあ、インスタとか。
DM 会話。
DM でも、質問とか、まあ、感想を受け付けてますので、Apple レビューも、Apple Podcast レビューもお願いいたします。
And the first email that we got today was, or the first email we're addressing today is from Oddity, and it goes as follows. Greetings. I actually went ahead and read the study you cited last week talking about masculinity. And what jumped out at me is that Japan seems to be this weird mixture of what is expected in a low and high extrinsic risk, high competition society, which I don't think is a possible combo in this study. It definitely has a future-oriented reproductive strategy, but somehow traditional gender power dynamics are still prevalent. According to this data I found on Statista, as for 2022, female participation in politics and managerial positions is low, but the overall percentage of working women is high. Male labor force is 38.3 million, which female is 3.8 million. So somehow it ends up having both higher gender inequality, but also somewhat modernized gender roles. For me, none of this explained kindness being identified as a masculine trait, which I found fascinating. It's the least masculine trait I can think of personally. You mentioned the hosomacho factor, but I'm thinking this is probably desirable for teens and women in their early 20s only, no? Well, are Japanese men actually kind? What does that even mean in terms of behavior? What does Aimi think? What do you think? What do you think kindness means in Japanese? First thing.
これは要するにあれじゃない、理解してくれるとか包容力がある。やっぱり女の人ってさ、理解してほしいとか共感してほしい。empathy empathize してもらいたいから、それの優しさじゃない。例えば悲しい時があったらそばにいて、理由聞いてくれたり、慰めてくれたりっていう、そういう優しさじゃない。Be there for you みたいな感じ。
Do you think it also at all relates to so how I'm seeing it, maybe this is the wrong way to see it, but is what is perceived as masculine is a positive thing in this survey, and the number one thing being kindness is something they're desiring. And if we look at what they're getting from places like, why women cheat, feeling like a woman or whatever. Do you think there's any notion of chivalry, like traditional men like opening doors for you?
Lady first みたいな。
Yeah. Do you think that's included in 優しさ or different?
その優しさも入ると思うよ。女の人として、そうだね、それもつながるね。女の人として扱われたいからレディーファーストでドア開けてもらいたいとか、それも優しさに入ると思うよ。
Yeah. And what about hosomacho? Do you think I think she was saying about that being identified as masculine, and Oddity is saying that's only for teens and women in their own early 20s. Do you think that's applicable or?
まあそうじゃない。結構昔の人ってやっぱり昔の人で言うマスキュリネが適用されるから、昔の人ってやっぱごっつくてなんか男って感じの人が男らしさに入ってったけど、今はやっぱジャニーズとかさ K-POP とかさジャスティン・ビーバータイプ、昔のジャスティン・ビーバータイプっていうの、
yeah.
はい、がまあかっこいいって感じだから、まあ割と若い人が細マッチョ好きな人いるんじゃないかな。
Yeah. And so I actually wanted to extend that difference between the generations into your previous point about there seems to be a impossible combo. And I think we sort of addressed it in the video, but something that I will like to bring up again is that Japan had a massive amount of change, an incredible amount of change in an extremely small period of time. So if we're looking at this how I kind of saw the study that we talked about earlier about high, low risk factors compared with competition is you're looking at what if you run let's say a country under these factors, it will keep trending more and more into the categories that it's saying. But in Japan, is still going under this very big transitionary period. Like I said, you talked about politic participation being low, but labor force being more modernized. That to me makes a lot of sense. One, Japan is like very old, and the politics is also very old. And traditionally, and especially with I looked at your statistics, it said like Japan with political participation is like ranked 140th out of 146 or something, like really, really bad. I think that's a remnant from the previous, you could say, distribution of this low risk, high competition, or correlating with the low inequality or whatever. And so I think we're just in a transitionary period. And so in this study, it was defining like 4 states and it wasn't really looking into the transitions of those states, because especially like it's crazy technology, and I'm not saying this is only technology, but technology, the amount of change every given year is getting faster and faster. And so like if you previously lived like say the 1500s to the 1600s, and your whole life would probably be very similar to your parents' life, but now it's not even, now my life is not even similar to the generation below me or the generation above me, really. Like they're very different types of people, right? Like, I mean, I technically am in this weird borderline where according to some people I'm a Zoomer, and according to others I'm technically the last year of what's it called, millennial. Yeah, and I don't identify with Zoomers at all. Just saying. I don't even like by the way they classify Zoomers, I don't follow into it either. Yeah, in terms of like my habits, the types of stuff I like, what I grew up watching, like all that is classified more similar to millennials. So just saying. I mean, and I was, even with the groups I was around when I was growing up, I was always, for a bunch of reasons, I was like placed up in with higher grades, like in sports and other like club activities and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I don't empathize with Zoomers at all. But anyways, next comment. Thank you so much. Hopefully we answered that. Yeah. It's from Shockox, and also following up on masculinity. So he says, basically what I'm hearing is that Japanese men are smarter, aligning themselves with what women want instead of aligning themselves with what other men want. This big old muscle masculinity thing is usually appealing to other men, while women are more into the Justin Bieber type person, or even just a regular person who sees a woman as a person rather than an object, or in the Andrew Tate world, a conquest. I have no problem with muscle-bound hunks and sporty competitive men, but when the behaviors are being destructive, it's not good. There is also the other classic I hate my wife person, or just the general I hate women people. I always think they would be happier if they just married a man, but unfortunately for them, homophobia is also usually baked into that kind of toxic masculinity, so they'll never really be happy. If I hated women, I'd just marry a man, but alas, I'm straight, so I like women. This is more of just a comment, but I definitely thought it was funny. Do you feel like any of these archetypes that he talked about are present in Japan? Because this seemed like a very Western things, like this whole Andrew Tate thing. I don't think Andrew Tate's made a blimp in Japan at all.
そもそもなんか日本だとさ、あんまり炎上するようなことを言うとさ、のはタブーだから。
Yeah, that is very interesting. Like, nothing controversial at all in any conceivable way of controversial. Even like controversial in the sense of a strong opinion. Having a strong opinion is controversial.
そうそうそう。だから出る杭は打たれるね、世界だから日本だと。
Yeah.
そもそもこういう強い信念を持った人はあんまりね、世の中に出てこないね。
Yeah. Like I get a lot of, or sometimes like when I'm in conversation with somebody, I'll get a lot of like, I can tell they're not liking me for some reason just because I get very excited about stuff that I like to talk about. So I'm not even being negative. I'm positive, but I'm too excited, basically, is fundamentally the problem. And that strong opinions are not really a thing. Which is to say that, let's see, he says, first type of men, big old muscle masculinity. We have I hate women. I hate women exists in Japan. I definitely know I hate women.
なんかめっちゃ矛盾しない。絶対こういう人ほどママ大好きなんだよ。
Yeah, that is a thing.
こういう人ほどマザコンなんだよね。いや、あなたのママ女の人ですよけどって感じだけど。
Yeah. What is it? I hate my wife. I hate my wife. I think it's more common in Japan. My wife is a being that exists that I see technically sometimes is more common. You know what I'm saying? Like their work. I remember I was watching an interview with a Japanese old dude who worked at a company for who knows how many years, and he retired but then just kept working anyways past retirement. And they asked him, what was it? The American expression, or do you live to work or work to live? And he's like, of course live to work. My job is my everything. And then he was like, he went on and on about things that are important to him about just in general. And kids, wife never came to the conversation. He was literally like, job equals purpose. That is the only.
家族を持つことが仕事にとっていいことだから結婚したぜみたいな。
Yeah, that was something I want to talk about cheating as well. Is how the whole notions of partnership and what your goals are have changed very quickly in Japan. I mean, you can see that with arranged marriages as well. But like the whole notion of cheating is so weird. Like, I'm saying, if the goal is to get money, like, or to have financial security through marriage and whatever, then what does it matter that you're sleeping with somebody else? That wasn't the goal in the first place. I wonder if cheating in that sense is then less or more common, because, you know what I'm saying? Because if you know coming in, like you're saying, if you know coming in why you're getting married, then maybe cheating's fine. So it's not cheating.
So
or maybe it's equally controversial. I'm not sure. But yeah, do you have any more thoughts about what's it called? I guess I would classify Shawcock's toxic masculinity or big muscle guys. I don't think.
あれでしょ、ドウェイン・ジョンソンとか。
Dwayne the Rock Johnson, yeah.
そうそうそう。
I don't see big muscle being, except for in small niches, being that looked up to in Japan.
まあでも最近では結構前からジムで鍛えてめっちゃムキムキな人がフィジークっていうのかなのコンテストでそういうなんかまああるんだけど、そういう人は増えて、そうそうボディビルダー、そういう人増えてると思うよ。
Yeah.
だから。
But I think it is something interesting. I think that is separate from men, right? Like he's saying, like Japanese men are smarter because they're aligning stuff with what women want. I think it's that's a funny way of putting it, but I think Japanese men also like the aesthetic, if that makes sense.
Align themselves with あれどういうこと？
So in America, like he's saying, like, okay, well, masculine men are just getting as bulky as possible, even though women don't like it. But he's saying in Japan, they are doing what women want. But I think they also want it too. There's so many guys like I love who, or not I love. There's so many guys who I know are really into like makeup or the whole like fashion or and pretty much all aspects like K-pop, J-pop. Where I don't have any. Maybe it's my me problem, but I don't have any friends who are into K-pop K-pop specifically, or like more, I'd say, traditional American view feminine type of J-pop or anything. Where I do know plenty of Japanese men who are into that. So.
まあ日本人の周りに溶け込む才能っていうのがあるからさ、やっぱり他の人とうまくやってるにはやっぱあれじゃない筋肉バカじゃなくてさ、ちょっと頭を使ってこれも書いてあるけどさ、女の人がね欲しいものに目指すことでポピュラーになってモテモテみたいな。
Yeah. There's also, oh man, this is something I wanted to address, but it's a very large thing. It was actually a whole of the paper, but I'll summarize it as I read. There's another paper I think I've talked about before. I was also discussing that as countries become more modernized or whatever, or you get more modernized gender roles, what you desire in the other partner starts to overlap with what, like, the gender roles, when they become mixed, that means the desire that you're looking for from the other sex also becomes mixed. So people who have attributes from both traditional, like it becomes required for you to be independent, like things that you associate with, like previously with income, being independent, whatever, or being caring, whatever. So both sexes need to carry that, which makes both the divide between masculine and feminine much, much closer. So I think that also might be happening in Japan, where it's not that, what's it called? There aren't these notions of masculine, feminine, or whatever. It's that they need to be way closer for you to actually be a compelling mate. But that's a whole separate conversation. I'm not sure. But yeah, hopefully we answered all your questions. Yeah. Thank you so much for the comments. That bell means we've reached the end of today's episode. Thanks for joining us in another lazy conversation towards fluency. If you have any language-related questions and are just looking for general advice, send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com, please, and we might respond to the next episode. Also, make sure to check out our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and more. We'd appreciate the support. This has been Joey,
Nayami,
signing off. じゃあねー。